Welcome to the Your Business on Purpose podcast, the ultimate resource for women business owners looking to confidently navigate their entrepreneurial journey while upholding their principles. I'm Dawnette Palmore, your host and fellow entrepreneur. Join me as we immerse ourselves in illuminating conversations with accomplished experts spanning various fields across the business spectrum. Together, we'll unearth strategic insights into seizing opportunities and ensuring that your business is equipped with the essential elements aligned with your purpose and values. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Your Business on Purpose podcast. I am your host, Dawnette Palmore, and today my guest and I are going to be talking about domestic violence, custody, and business. And you're probably thinking, what in the world do those things have to do with each other? Well, you're just going to have to keep listening to find out. But let me first introduce my guest to you, Reneé Rodriguez. Reneé Rodriguez is an experienced custody strategist, DV advocate, divorce mediator, parenting coordinator, and instructional designer. Ooh, we're going to have to find out more about that. Driven by her own past and personal experience with domestic abuse, she takes pride in proving the best strategy possible for her clients' cases. As the creator of the Custody Blueprint, her goals include helping productive parents who are in a custody dispute and a high conflict co-parent to get the custody arrangement that is best for their children. Through assessing potential strategies for their case, designing their presentation of their evidence, and preparing them for how they should appear to the court and court professionals throughout their court case. Welcome to the show, Reneé, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, because that really was just kind of a nutshell.
Yeah, that is a nutshell, but you're right. It is an unusual thing. I think a lot of people might want to label us divorce coaches, which in and of itself is rather a new field, about 10 years or so old.
Okay.
But what we are doing is specific to custody and specific to building a strategy. And as you were saying when you were going through, info about me, that court persona, there is so much that a protective parent suffers when they decide to flee that situation. Now suddenly they go to family court thinking, now here I can get help. And instead the post-separation abuse intensifies and continues on. So there are just these layers of abuse. So what we're doing is we're taking a look at the evidence, we're taking a look at their case, whether or not they have a lawyer, and we're saying, look, here's strategically how we think you should go in. And we're helping them to not appear in front of the court and these court professionals fulfilling the false narratives that their abuser have about them. Oh, she's got anxiety. Oh, there's mental illness, whatever it might be. We're really trying to make sure that when that protective parent appears, that they're not playing right into that narrative.
That is very good, because we can easily do that just because we're all frazzled anyways. But I love that. It's much needed. And so the listeners are probably thinking, well, what does this have to do with business? And I know that we're going to talk about how you developed your business out of this. But as we were talking before the show, so many women are in abusive relationships and they don't know how to get out. They don't know if there's a way out. You help them to actually navigate after they've gotten out. And what I love to do is help them to be financially independent so that they can leave those situations and not have to be in those anymore. So this is great. What a synergy. Super excited. And they need all the help and support they can get, because I know it's a really hard, both of you and I have come from abusive relationships. It's hard to take that first step, especially if you know you're doing it alone, to just get out. So I love what you're doing. Thank you so much. So that, ladies, is what business and the domestic violence and custody has to do with today, because we want to help you and give you another tool to be able to get out of a situation that you probably shouldn't be in. Okay, so let's hear a little about your story. So how did you develop this out of what you've been through?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because there are several things I've done as part of my background. And for a long time, I was working in strategy groups and for strategy consultancies. I was with one company for 10 years, and then I started working for other consultancies. At the same time, though, I was basically running a theater company that was just about to go off Broadway. And so it was full days all the time. I've always been a go-getter, so it was easy to do those things. But then I ended up meeting the man who would become my co-parent, and things were wonderful at first. Just on the same page about absolutely everything. The whole thing moved quickly. Red flags started appearing, and then it got to a point where a friend told me that she thought I was being mentally abused. And I remember I was seeing a psychologist in secrecy because things had gotten weird in the relationship, because I couldn't figure out why I was always doing something wrong, why I was always walking on eggshells, right? Just tiptoeing around good mood, bad mood, good mood, bad mood. I didn't know what it was going to be coming from him. And I would be blamed for very odd things. He lost his keys once. That was my fault. He lost his folder once. That was my fault, even though I was nowhere near him and he had gone about his day, and a myriad of other types of accusations. So I was seeing a psychologist on the slide to kind of say, hey, help me be better in this relationship. And I called her and I said, a friend says I've been mentally abused. What do you think? And she said, yes. And I said, my goodness, why didn't you tell me this months ago? And she
Right?
said, you can't, like, you're going to deny it. You're going to run away from it. What I
Mm,
needed to do was help you use your voice about what was going on so that you could come to it and really be able to accept it, which it sounds like you have done. And within about 2 weeks, I left after another episode where he was blaming me for some video that didn't upload, that he was trying to do in the other room. And I fled with my child. I remember describing the relationship to my brother as being abject misery. And while, of course, I understand what those words mean, they they weren't in my vernacular at the time, and yet there I was using those words. So I fled that relationship, and when I came out, I did meet a divorce coach, Tina Swithen, who was working with me, and I went through 13 lawyers I interviewed, and it was the lucky 13th one who said exactly what I needed to hear to know that he understood what was going on here. And he said, we need to get you control of your life back.
mm,
I was like, there it is, right there. That's
mm.
exactly what it is.
Ooh, got chills.
Yeah. So I started working with Tina, and there was a point in my custody battle, which many people have, where there's a custody evaluation. And it turns out this is the most crucial part of any custody case. And later I came to find out that that is because 85 to 90% of judges will go with whatever that custody evaluator recommends for custody. And so this is the person that I needed to convince more so than the judge.
Mm,
She said there were a couple of coaches who did kind of help people prepare for that. She thought they were busy. She went to them, came back and said they are busy, but you have a strategy background. Why don't you just put stuff together? Let's meet and let's decide. So I did exactly that. I met with her and she said, I've never, ever seen anything like this. I've never seen abuse laid out so clearly. She said,
mm,
you should be coaching. To which I said, slow your roll. I'm in the middle of a custody case. But a year and a half later, people were telling me, she's sharing your templates, she's sharing your system. You should do something with that. So I got in touch with her. It sounded like things were going well. So I went ahead and developed it beyond what I had developed just for my case. So it grew from there. And that's how the business grew. Now, I had been doing things that had been very successful, but when I had been with my ex, those things unraveled in spite of the fact that they'd been going on for over a decade each. He was unraveling my career. He was, at the theater company, people were leaving the theater company because he had found his way into it and they didn't want to work
mm,
with him.
yeah.
My boss at being a deputy administrator and doing the strategy work and that type of thing was kind of like, you're just not cut out for this work anymore, which made no sense because I always advanced in roles quickly. But I've also always been entrepreneurial. And so I think that when she had said, you should be doing this, I knew that that was something that I wanted to try. And so I started out doing the work. doing one-on-one, and realized that I could have greater reach by changing my business model and finding a way to reach more people at once, doing different sort of programs and engagements and lines of work. And that's how the company grew. But I think honestly, Donna, every day, almost every day, I'm amazed that I escaped a trauma and then dove headfirst, really, into several traumas at once, because this is trauma. We have moms coming to us who we help dads too, but let's be honest, the statistics are that it is largely women who are
Mhm.
suffering this kind of
Yeah.
abuse. It is largely women who are not believed in family court. And so essentially, I'm looking at some women who come to me and they've got their CXOs, their, politicians, whatever it might be. And they seem to be very strong women, and they are very strong women. All of these women are very strong women, but when you're looking at the ones who are, by definition, supposed to have it together, you can still see how the trauma is influencing what they're doing. And you talk about the fact that I'm always talking about abundance, right? I'm always talking about how you can find abundance after this, and you talk about having the money, but I think we have to remember that a fair number of these moms have not been allowed to have their own bank account.
Mhm.
They have not been allowed to know what's going on with the marital funds for years and years and years. We have a number of women who helped build and were joint in a business that they built with their co-parent that has now suddenly been taken away from them, right? No income, no job, nothing, because they were helping to grow the family business. And now suddenly they've been shut out of that. We have plenty of women who have no access to any funds and who have always been entrepreneurial and are only just now realizing it. And so while we are only helping with the custody journey, we do see how there's a certain percentage of these women who are trying to build their own businesses and others who
Mm.
are trying to succeed in their businesses. They are, CXOs, for example. We find that their exes have been taking their six-figure incomes and just gambling it away in the stock markets, at the tables, whatever it
Mhm.
might be. The money is just disappearing, being lent out, being invested in these, businesses, right? And so there are these women who are six figures, very powerful, and who are still struggling with money because of the gaslighting, right? And I think it's important for us to recognize that one can be rattled by this, because we have a lot of clients who end up suddenly they're not getting promoted anymore. And the reason why is because they're always gone. They're in some sort of a court date. They're talking to court professionals. They're trying to find time to put together their court case, right?
Yeah.
Or they are being let go, right? Or transferred. And so their careers come to almost a halt just because they are in the middle of a custody battle. Their bosses no longer trust them, no longer have faith in them. And so, even as we're helping them with custody, we see how this affects where they are in the world and where they are at financially and with their business, whether they're an employee or an owner.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You were just, like, still, and I'm like, "Did we lose each other? Did
No,
someone hear
yeah.
some?"
No, I think there's a lot that gets destroyed when you are up against a narcissistic or abusive or controlling or coercively controlling co-parent who, once you have taken away their property, meaning yourself and the children,
Yeah.
then they are hell-bent on revenge, and it is nothing but vengeance until their last breath. And as I tell our clients, who are all kind of like, if only he would go away, if only he would decide to give up, it's kind of like he's not going to go away. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, if you're going to beat me out,
You
but
can
I
swear, go
usually
ahead.
say to them, assholes live forever.
Yeah.
So you can't hope that he's going to want to go away, or that, something's going to happen, because nothing's going to happen to that person. They're going to pursue court as often as they can, unless you can put an absolute stop to it to the best of your ability. Right.
I love that. So, What are, with the women listening, are some things they should be looking for saying, okay, maybe I am in a domestic violence situation? Because we sometimes when we think about domestic, I shouldn't violence, we think hitting, and
Right.
that's not always the case. And I think it actually is less and less the case these days. I'm not sure, but that's what it kind of seems like.
I would say that the majority of cases in the family court deal with psychological types of abuses far more. Physical abuse can follow where it starts psychological abuse, but I think that what people are looking for are well, isolation, right? If if you've been turned against your family somehow, or your husband has been telling you that your cousin did this and your mom said that, and there are things that don't quite match up with what you know. Suddenly, if you go to see your friends, you're sort of punished with another type of abuse, this silent treatment. You can't, where they don't bother to look at you, they refuse to speak to you or sleep in the same bed as you, and it's punishing you and making you feel as if you don't exist. They can't be bothered with you. You did something so bad that you're not allowed to exist, basically, for a while, for however long that might be, a few hours, a few days, a few weeks. They can really sustain a silent treatment, right? So if you're punished for anything like that, there's also, if you're walking on eggshells, that is has to be the easiest way. Like if you are frightened of the moods of your co-parent, you are being psychologically controlled.
Yeah.
You are with somebody who is controlling you with what they are doing. And I think if you look at that and you look at the other red flags that are there, there's no transparency with the money, 99% of people who are abused suffer financial abuse in some form. So, what is going on with the money? Is this an egalitarian? And if it's not meant to be egalitarian, if it's meant to be very, very traditional, that's fine too. But here again, you have to ask, how are you feeling in this relationship? Because the whole, well, every marriage is hard and, there's ups and downs. Sure. But if you're not able to openly communicate with this person without being ridiculed or, rationalized, like you're not being rational. So let me tell you what you're trying to say. Or if you're just not being heard, this is a controlling relationship. And whenever it would be my greatest dream is that we find all moms before they leave so that we can tell them what to gather before they go for
Mm,
evidence for the court. But it rarely happens that way. Largely, when people do hear of us or are directed to us before they leave, we almost always hear, well, I'm still getting a lawyer. I'm still deciding. I don't think I need you at this point. And then, of course, the majority of the people we're helping who are in the middle of their case, and we consider the middle of the case after you've had a court appearance on, you are in the middle of your case. Whether you're a month in or 3 years in, you are in the middle of your case now. And so we consider these are the people who come to us the most. And they all say the same exact thing. If only I'd found you before I left. Right. So we're able to stem, the blood flow when we find them, but it's always going to be better if people can come to us before they leave. But how do they know they need us?
yeah.
If you're watching TV, then the belief is, all you need is your lawyer, because your lawyer is going to be this attractive, wonderful person who is going to spend an entire episode eating and breathing and sleeping and angsting over you, and only you. They're going to talk to their boss and argue with their boss about you. They're going to go to the police and make them look up everything. They're going to talk to detectives. Their lives are all about you for an entire episode. That's not the reality. And so when people get the shock of their lives going into family court and realizing that it's not clear justice and that lawyers have, 20 to 40 other clients besides you, then they realize that you need a team. And you
Mhm.
and your lawyer are not the team. That's the partnership that appears in court. But there needs to be a team behind it. There needs to be a therapist. There needs to be children therapist. You may or may not need a PI, which lawyers hate, but we love, because it can end a case pretty quickly and you can stop spending money because now you can prove something that you didn't have proof of before, right? You need us. You need a strategist. You might even need a coach. You need you've got to have friends who get it. We talk about we work with the four friends, and we say you pick four friends and each one of them gets one piece of the crap of this custody case, but no one friend gets all the crap of the custody case, because you need these people around you. And these cases can last a while and your support system can peel away, because there's this belief that family court understands who the better parent is. And boy, if you haven't gotten custody yet, maybe there's something about you that I didn't know,
Mm,
especially if they're considering taking custody away from a mom. What is wrong with you, mom? Right?
mm.
There's just a complete lack of knowledge and understanding around the way that family court actually works. And I'm not even talking about bias. There is bias here and there. I'm just talking about the way it is meant to work and the laws that are in place that don't automatically award custody to the primary caregiver anymore, right?
Yeah.
Especially if the abuser knows how to con them, and they often do.
Yeah, they do. Everything that you're saying is making total sense from the custody battle I've gone through, and I lost custody of my son.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I
Yeah,
didn't.
I lost custody of him. Thank God it was, when he was older, but still, it was his most formative years, and I see the damage it's done to him.
Yeah.
The court didn't care. They didn't care anything about me. I was the enemy, and this guy represented himself and
Yeah.
got away with murder. I mean, he even showed our son the court documents.
Yes, a lot of them do that. A
And
lot of
the
them do
judge
that.
is like,
But then
"Okay,
the
that's
moms get
one
blamed.
slap hand," and I do something, and it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna throw the book at you now," and I'm like,
Right.
"Okay." So, wow, like, everything just came together for me right now. Okay, so you said that sometimes they don't know what to grab. Obviously, we don't, because 'cause we're trying just to get out of the situation. Maybe you have the audience's attentions. What are some things that maybe they should consider most important to get out while they're leaving?
Yeah, all of the paperwork that's really hard to replace. So you want to have either the originals or copies of birth certificates and passports and deeds, and bank account signatures, and all of the above. You also want to have at least one set of financials for everything. Let's say you come from a rather affluent family and there's a lot of things that you own. You need to have the financials of the utilities and the home maintenance and the property and the taxes and everything for home A and home B and home C, boat A, boat C. If you are not economically advantaged, you want to know who's, get the rent, get the lease, get the mortgage paper, all of it, right? So you basically want to get anything that's hard to replace, as well as records of the way things were done. You One of the things I would have people do, it's hard to say because it means that I would have had you not do it in the first place, but we're supposed to trust that person we marry, right? And we're supposed to save money where we can. But I am not a fan of family plans. So if your phone is on a family plan, I'm here to tell you they are reading everything. They're
Oh,
downloading all the photos you've taken, including of you having margaritas with the girls, because they're going to use that to say you're an alcoholic. They are downloading all of your emails, including you talking to your mom saying, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but he was cruel and he called me these names, and then he slammed the door and punched a hole in the wall, etc. It's just, as soon as you can separate or block off your cloud account from this person, the better, right? Either that, or at least remove all of your stuff from the cloud and then leave it as is, right? Um, any devices at all that you want to take, anything that is yours from before the marriage. This is where things get tricky because they're just possessions. So you're looking for really the stuff that really does mean something to you.
yeah.
And for those things are not just possessions, right? And you're going to want to find a way to subtly, take those out of the house, because they're not marital property. Do not remove marital property. You can't do it. You will get in trouble. It will come back to haunt you, and it will hurt everything, interestingly enough, including your custody case.
Mm,
So just take the stuff that they'll invent dispute, but that for sure is yours. You're also looking to, and this is where it gets crucial, you need to start, if you're in a state or province or territory that allows you to do so, you need to start recording. You do. And you're recording for two things. Everybody thinks you're recording to get evidence on them, but you're also recording to have evidence for yourself. What I mean is, you can record the arguments, you can record him slamming things around, calling you names, yelling at the children in a blood curdling way. You want that stuff. You want that stuff. You want that stuff. You also want to be careful of not responding. We always have at least three, four, five cases at a time that are like this. And same thing right now where they're in my head because we've got clients who have amazing recordings of just the worst stuff that these abusers do. But then somewhere in the recording, the mom pipes up and says, I need you to stop doing that. And she raises her voice and she defends herself. And the minute she does that, we can't use it because the court sees this as two people arguing now. They no longer see the abuse because now mom has stood up for herself. Therefore, it's marital discord. And so we actually
Wow.
just need the recordings where the mom is just basically saying, please, please, please stop, please, please. Please stop yelling. Please stop hitting him. Please stop dragging him. You almost need to narrate these things. And
Mm,
certainly more video is making its way into court, but it's not supposed to be. And so I'm always careful about that because we have to do things legally, right? The other type of evidence you're looking to get is if they send some of them are clever, not a lot, but some of them are clever enough to know that you might be leaving. And so they will start to if they start to verbalize narratives, they're probably recording you. And so when you
mm,
react, your reaction has to be, what are you talking about? That's so weird that you have to kind of make it so that their recording doesn't make sense. But it's a clue that you need to start recording your time with your kids because we see these abuse allegations come. She was hitting the kids. She was this, she was that. We worked with a woman, she's a famous case. She's on the news quite a bit. And we worked with her right after she came out and she did well for a while. He was accusing her of slapping the kids. And one of the things that happened was she had slapped a table in anger. And, when you slap a table, sometimes it sounds like you're hitting a person. There's no doubt
yeah.
about it. And she said the recording that he has, our child is all the way down the hall. You can hear him. It's clear that I was nowhere near our child. And yet the children were taken completely away from her because they believed his narrative, right? And it was because her response to him was very much sort of like, listen, I'm going to do what I want, even though she had never hit him. And they related that to the slap on the table.
Wow.
So you have to be recording yourself being great with your kid if you think that if you think that they are going to try to create a narrative against you. So there are a variety of things that you're doing. You need to make copies of all of the keys, all of them, and have them someplace. And then for people who are suffering financial abuse, what we have a lot of moms do is they find ways. Some of the husbands want to see receipts for everything, but if they don't necessarily need to see receipts, then a lot of times we'll have moms take add $50 withdrawals here and there when they go to the stores or to pay for anything. They'll take off $50 here and there, here and there, here and there, because they don't have an account of their own. They've been financially abused and controlled for 10 years, so they have no credit line. So when these moms leave, they think, well, I'll just get a credit card. No, you won't, it turns out. Well, I'll just rent my own place. No, you won't, because they'll want a year's worth of rent in advance, right? So if you are being severely abused and you're being financially abused, then yes, find ways and find places to keep money in case you need to flee for the safety of you and your children. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's something that just came to my mind. I don't know if this is possible, but if they bought something and they have to show a receipt, what if they returned that stuff?
Yeah, they can do that as
And then
well.
they can get the
Yeah.
money. Yeah,
It's
okay.
sort of the same thing. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of hiding assets that a little bit, I'll say a little bit, but there's a way that we find. I worked with Christine Lucan, who has a wonderful book called Financial Dignity
Oh
After
my
Divorce.
gosh, I know her.
You do? So
Yes.
Christine and so we were talking, I love her. I love that book. And so whenever I give it to clients or tell them to buy it, I'm always like, all you need, honestly, for us being, in a custody battle, I just need you to read those first three chapters because part one is about where are they hiding the money. And it's, in their card collection, in their coin collection, in their golf clubs, and sometimes there's cash in their golf bag. They are buying tools. My father is or always has been a mechanic. And I remember growing up that he would be very precious about his tools. And it wasn't until I was a teenager that he explained that tools are actually incredibly expensive. Well, the resale value on them is extremely high. And so if you have a set of tools, you could sell them for tens of thousands of dollars if you have just a big shed of tools. That's assets. That's where they're buying these tools for their hobby. You hardly see them using it, but it's their possession. And I'll see these moms say, well, he's the only one ever used them, so he should have them. Yeah, he planned it that way. He's now walking away with tens of thousands more dollars, right? And so it's just fascinating to me the way that they do that. And I would think that if there's a way for you, if you're being abused, to me, it feels better for the abused person, for the survivor to be using those tactics than the abuser to be using those tactics, right?
Yeah, wow. That's crazy. And something also, just to make clear that it doesn't matter how little or how much money you have, abuse happens in all
It
situations.
absolutely does.
Yeah. So there's no
Absolutely does.
discrimination against that.
No, not at all. I mean, that's one of the things I love about when we do our group strategy sessions where we're talking about strategy with each person, and then everyone else in the group is like, I never even thought about that. I'm going to apply that to my case as well. Everyone is seeing people who are, like I mentioned, they're CXOs and politicians. They're also home care givers. They are teachers. They are nurses, and just all around, all
Mhm.
around. We have plenty of people work with us who are also just unemployed. They were a stay-at-home mom. Now their ex is accusing them of staying at home on purpose instead of because their ex told them to stay at home, right? And they have to start over. And so they're starting over. And this is when I always talk about there's so much abundance ahead of you now that you are free of this person.
Yeah.
It'll take a while. It's going to take, 2, 3, 5 years.
Yeah.
But one day, 3, 5 years from now, you're going to be all like, oh my gosh, how am I not stressed about money anymore?
I love it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, if someone's saying, you know what, I think I might be in a relationship I need to get out of, or I need to talk to somebody, how can they find you?
Yeah. So people should go to thecustodyblueprint.com, thecustodyblueprint.com, and check us out there. I like for people to we just start right out with a free masterclass that's about 30 minutes long, just so that people can get what they need right then and there. This is how you should be structuring your case. These are the things you need to think about. If they need deeper work, if they want to do a deep dive with us and really make sure that their strategy is as foolproof as it can be, then they can book a call with us. But after they start out with the master class, and if they still need us, yeah, book a call, see if we can help. If we can't, we find you people or places where we think you should go. But if at the end of the master class you feel like we're speaking your language and you want a deep dive, then chances are extremely high that we can help. We have an incredible success rate, 90%. I'm going to knock on wood because every
Wow.
time I say that, I can't believe it. But we
That's
have an incredible
amazing.
success rate with the custody blueprint. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. Well, ladies, if you find yourself in that situation, please give Renee a call. Please go look at her website. Um, please go seek help. Please let someone help you. And know, like she said, if there's signs, start preparing because it's going to be, going to get messy. Thank you again so much for being here and talking about this subject that probably does not get talked about enough. Um, and we need to just open those doors and get the conversation going. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Um, thank you, ladies, for being here with us. We appreciate your time as well. And remember, conducting business on purpose not only fuels your success, but also propels you towards a purposeful life. So thank you again for tuning in. And until next time, embrace your journey of intentional business and purposeful living. This podcast is dedicated to you and all the incredible women out there breaking chains, pushing through, and striving to make it all work. Your support truly means the world to me. Could you do me a favor? Be a gem and leave a review. It will help us reach even more women, making a bigger impact. Your feedback is invaluable, and I would genuinely appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, ensuring you never miss an episode. Until next week, live a purposeful life in both your business and your finances.